don't know.
When do we want it?
Also unclear.
Why do we want it?
Because it was forwarded to us in an email, so it must be true. Yeah!
I just want to say that you all look really dumb having another No Kings protest, and I mean that from the bottom of my heart. I mean, talk about just a bunch of greasy, unemployed communists running around talking about fighting back against fascism, when I can't help but notice how rich and how hypocritical that is. Because who was it again? Which party was the party that called for censorship, that called for politically persecuting opponents, controls the entire mainstream media and all of the narratives, threatens people who doesn't agree with them, and believes it's justified to kill people and celebrate the deaths of people that they don't agree with? You know, the people who are like, comply or else, or we should be able to take your freedoms away for the greater good. Yeah, you. Look in the mirror. You are everything you claim to be against. You are the true fascists here.
Are you protesting the fact that you live in the greatest country on this planet? And the fact that you get to protest means there's no kings in this country? What the f are you protesting? Are you protesting the fact that Donald Trump is doing his job because the Biden-Harris administration f this country up, open the borders to let anybody in? Criminals left and right. And no, not everybody's criminals, but a lot of them are. And if you broke the law to get here, guess what? You're a criminal. And here's a news flash for all you liberal Democrats that are paying out of pocket to go to these protests, which we know better. America doesn't want your woke agenda bullshit. We're sick and tired of being called racist because we don't agree with some bullshit that you're trying to push down our throat because 0.1% of the population thinks it's right. We don't want it. We want Donald Trump to do his job because that's what we hired him to do. You purple hair, lazy, hate your parents, you hate your boss, you hate anybody that holds you accountable. Accountability is a word you have never uttered in your life because if you had, you would quickly change from a liberal Democrat to a conservative Republican where we believe in accountability. Where if you did something wrong in your life, it's your fault. And it's not the government's job to bail you out.
What up, ladies and gentlemen? The one out of James Williams, Star Wars. I'm back. And the No Kings Day protest went off this weekend. And you might as well call it a No Kings Day, No Progress protest. But I watched the events that were going on, and I tried to figure out what I was seeing. And it took a while before it came to me what we were looking at. And I'm going to point out a few things for you, but I'm going to start with the most dangerous thing. But you notice that it was all elderly, liberal, white people. For the most part, it was all nursing home, liberal, white people. And the demographic that showed up indicated a couple of things to us. One, that Donald Trump really needs to deal with the media because the media was able to weaponize those people. And that's the age group that still turns on the nightly news. It's the age group who grew up sitting in front of the TV. That is the age group who grew up believing what was said on the news was true. So they have fully been able to weaponize them. That's the age group that does not know how to get on Facebook, that does not know how to use Twitter, that does not know how to search. They only post pictures of their grandchildren and great-grandchildren. That's the age group that looks and says, oh, did you know such and such daughter had a baby? But then they turn on the news. With that being said, the great thing is that can easily be broken. But with that being said, it's a very dangerous thing. Why is it dangerous? Because the sins of the father are visited on the sons for 4 generations. So that old person who's up there right now, that's just out in the streets, participating in hate, participating in rage, participating in all this other stuff, you see it, think of it as we're vessels for God, but think of them as a cauldron at this point in time, like a big giant pot, with the flames up under it. And every day, the news media is just throwing more stuff into the pot and stirring it and stirring it and stirring it, throw more and stir it and stir it. And it's cursing their whole bloodline. The whole bloodline. And when you really look at it, well, I'll show you. Let's start with this. Let's start with this imagery right here.
What the hell? Who the fuck brings their kids here?
Don't start that shit right now, man. Don't start that shit right now.
You get off my land! Get off my land! These are my lands! Get off my land! I told you, get off my land! These are my lands! Get off my land!
You come to realize that these are generational people who are under generational curses that are out here. I don't know if you're seeing it. You got, and then they're bringing even more of those generational curses down on the children. They're training their kids to hate. All the while saying, oh, the police officers are haters, or the police officers are fascists, or the police officers are racist for doing their job, while those officers are actually defending them. Somebody say, well, James, they're socialists and they're communists. Yeah, I agree with you. But at the same time, from a spiritual perspective, this is what they're doing. Whether they acknowledge it or whether they completely sold out to Satan or not, this is what they're doing. I mean, to me, the most damaging image is this little boy right here, uncoordinated, probably been in the house his whole life, trying to stab Donald Trump. Wow. And then he goes over to his two dads. My man, my Lord, man, this is crazy. And there were no major events that happened during the there was no real major events, no bombs, no nothing. Just them marching around like a bunch of tards and doing stuff like this and being full on demonized. That's damn demon. See it? Full on demonized. That's a demonic manifestation happening right in front of you. Wow. Crazy stuff going on. All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's go to more on this news. I know you guys saw a lot of this weekend, but it's just some events for me. It's like I don't need to sit down and cover every minute of the protest. I need to see what the fruit of it is. And what we saw was there was no fruit. And then now they're being mocked. They're being held in derision. And the reason why they're being mocked is because God said he would mock them. And so therefore men mock them. And hold on, let me slow down. To make my point, I had to come back to my Miro board. And I wanted to do an update on our board. So we had after what we've witnessed, we need to accommodate for the entire woke family. At first we were thinking wokeism was just like this younger generation of woke tards. We've made a mistake. We've made an error. We need to accommodate for the wokish grandfathers and grandmothers, the wokish sons and daughters, the wokish grandchildren. We need to accommodate for the generations of wokeness that we are seeing manifest into this earth. because that's what's been on display. It's been generations of wokeness, generations sold out to other gods, generations who care about things that are, oh my God, things that are just backwards, the backwards generations. Now, if you don't remember, we've talked about the various generations that the Bible has discussed being in the earth. Give me a second. Sorry to scribble this around in your face, but we have a whole board, and I don't like printing paper because it gets us in trouble. So, not gets us in trouble, but it causes too much trouble to keep up with. I'm acting like somebody gonna beat my behind for having some paper. All right, here it is. We know there's a perverse and crooked generation, an adulterous generation, a forgetful generation. These are all generations according to the Bible. There's the stubborn and rebellious generation. There is and a faithless generation. And the problem that we're running into is, well, not even a problem. What I would call the media and the Democratic Party has tried to do is they tried to coalesce all those generations to come together and march out in the street at one time under one flag, under one banner. But they couldn't get it to happen because as they're trying to get them all to march, get them all on the same page, they're being picked apart and pulled away from out of that spiritual state that they're in. I showed you the videos the other day about all the kids at high schools having revivals and kids preaching outside of high schools, Jesus Christ clubs at high schools. And so, as this wicked, perverse, forgetful, adulterous, disrespectful generations come out to march, the Lord is mocking them. And that mocking is actually breaking them. And then on the other hand, you have this great revival going on after the murder of Charlie Kirk. 1 second. I need some methylene blue. All right, ladies and gentlemen, I'm back. I have my methylene blue that I wanted to take because I didn't realize till just now. I have not taken my methylene blue. I'm not going to do a lot of drops because I don't want to get methylene blue overdose. I'm just going to get my body and my brain to kick in a little bit. Now, sometimes I like to have ice in my methylene blue. Other times not. And you can know it's real ghetto when they have ice in their wine. Yes. Now I must do one more thing and then we're off to the races again. Hold, please. I'm back. What was I saying? I was saying that we have all these generations and God is mocking them. According to Psalms 2. The Lord shall hold them in derision. The Lord shall laugh. He shall hold them in derision. Then he will wax them with his sore displeasure. He will pour out his wrath and wax them with his sore displeasure. Now, notice that the mocking comes first. The mocking happens first. And everywhere you look, all over social media, this group of people are being mocked. There have been times where I've had people come against me on YouTube and I would just make memes about them. And I'm talking about years ago before, memeing was like, oh, the president was memeing. And people are like, oh, you're a Christian. You shouldn't be mocking people. No, my God holds you in derision and laughs at your stupidity and mocks you. And I want to be like him. So I'm going to laugh at you and I'm going to mock you because if he doing it, it worked. That's why that works with people. Just so you know this. That's why the memes drive people crazy. That's why Hakeem Jeffries, when they put the tortilla, whatever Mexican head on him, that's why Hakeem Jeffries lost his mind. You see, there are keys in the scripture that if you really study, and that you have to believe that it's real. You know what I'm saying? Anybody who goes to God must first believe that he's God and that he's real. And once you believe that he's real, then once you believe his word, you understand that anything that he does that you do is going to work. Anything he does that you do is going to work. And so the issue is, how do I do what you did? And then the other issue is, can you tell me a new thing I need to do? The base level is, okay, how do I go figure out what the Lord did with my forefathers and what they did, because they were told what to do? Then how do I do some of the things that you did in the scripture? Or how do I have the emotions and feelings that you have or thoughts that you have? And then when you build an altar to prayer and you pray to him, then you start to hear what he tells you to do. You'll hear what he tells you to do. In fact, you know what? Let me go to an image of these people, and I'm going to explain something. One more thing to you. Here's the president making comments on it. And I want you to understand the mockery is there for a reason. You know, and if you notice, it's very effectual against liberals as you mock them. They want rant and rave and scream and holler. And the more and more you just mock them, they lose their crap.
Over the weekend, the No Kings protests.
I think it's a joke. I looked at the people. They're not representative of this country. And I looked at all the brand new signs paid for, I guess it was paid for by Soros and other radical left lunatics. It looks like it was. We're checking it out. The demonstrations were very small, very ineffective, and the people were whacked out. When you look at those people, those are not representative of the people of our country.
Mr. President, besides San Francisco...
By the way, I'm not a king. I'm not a king. I work my ass off to make our country great. That's all it is. I'm not a king at all.
Over the weekend, the No Kings protests.
I think it's a joke.
I'm glad, though. I'm very glad that nothing happened. I'm very glad that God chose to expose this for what it is, this being AstroTurf. I'm extremely excited about the fact that we didn't have anything blow up. We didn't have terrorist attacks. We didn't have someone shoot those older, crazy people. That they didn't blow up and there were pieces of legs and arms all spewed over the media. I'm very glad that that didn't happen. It's an amazing thing. And hopefully, the president of the United States will get control of all the intelligence organizations and we won't have those kind of things happen. And they will crush the enemies of America and deal with the people who are funding this foolishness. Now, I was making a point. Let me get back to it. I need to show you these people. All right, I'm back. And here we go. I found what I was looking for. Now, I need to make sure there's no music on this because they love to play music. And make sure there's no nip slips because they love to show their nips. But when you look at this crowd, I need you to understand something. Everywhere, all over the United States of America, when he had this crowd, it was these liberals and their families. So it was them and their children. So what we're seeing right now is we're seeing a combination of all these older, like the original OGs that led to all this perversion being marching out into the streets. Because it's their grandkids and their children that have bull rings in their noses that are throwing rocks at ICE. And now it's their turn to come out and support their kids. And I want you to understand that God has cordoned them off. He's pulled them away from the rest of the nation and forced them to expose themselves. A lot of conservative people, you worry about when you go out and, run into liberal people and them acting crazy. Well, here's what you need to understand. It's more us than them. And this is what you saw from this day. You saw the enemy's army arm up and walk out into the streets across the whole nation. And it wasn't a lot of them. It wasn't a lot of them at all. Now, what does that show us? What does that say to us? It tells us that at the end of the day, this is a defeated foe. It's defeated in multiple ways. It's defeated because majority of these people are elderly and they're going to die off. Or they're going to take injections until they die off. But then it's also defeated based upon the numbers that we've seen from this revival, because some of the people know the revival was their sons and daughters that have been woken up. Some of their generations have been woken up. But this is the enemy. And I don't mean it like a run out there and shoot and stab somebody enemy. I mean, these are the generations of people who have made themselves, who've separated themselves from the Lord, and therefore make themselves an enemy of our kingdom. Don't mean that we got to go do them nothing, because people be like, oh, he's calling for violence. No, I'm not calling for violence, but you must recognize the enemy. And that was one of the problems that Christians in this nation had. We did not recognize that we have enemies. So God has made it to where our enemies are in plain sight. Mendami is your enemy. Islam is your enemy. This wokeism is your enemy. Palestinian movement is your enemy. You cannot avoid it anymore. You cannot sit with your head in the sand anymore, because it's out in your face. And that was the greatest thing about what's going on right now. It's in your face. You have to make a choice. So if you have a son or a daughter or a granddaughter that's in college and being exposed to this, now you need to make a choice, because you see what they end up looking like. You see the future of your generations. You're getting a glimpse at what your bloodline will look like in 2-3 generations. If you have the ability to see anything, you see the glimpse. So guess what? If one of my nieces during the holidays comes in and she has a bull ring in her nose and she decides she's going to do something, I'm not finna be nice about the conversation. I'm finna say, hey, you need to take that crap out your face. What is wrong with you? What are you thinking? And then I'm gonna sit her down and explain to her. If one of my nephews come in and he starts talking some crazy radical liberal stuff, hey, sit your silly behind down. Well, you don't understand. No, you don't understand a damn thing. You still got new car smell, boy. Sit down. Shut up. And not allow the emotional blah, 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 the emotional demons that they become infested with to intimidate you. You must protect your lineage, because you see what it looks like. You see what it looks like. This is what democracy look like. This is what democracy look like. You don't believe in them? You don't understand why? Hold on. Because if you don't, here's the alternative. Here's where you're headed. One of the people from your bloodline will be this thing right here on stage, because that's the end. That's the bottom of the rabbit hole. That's the bottom. That's the pit right there. That's when you've gotten to the point of no return. That's what it looks like. This is what democracy looks like. That's what they tell you. When you get to the bottom, that's it right there. You start targeting kids. So you and I, we are 4 generations, or maybe in cases 1 generation, because I personally believe that everything that has been done in the college and university systems has been created to accelerate the perversion, to accelerate the dishonor. It's a system that's been created to accelerate this move all the way down the pit of hell. That's what it is. And so I'm sorry. We're going to have to get a set of balls. I'm sorry. We're going to have some balls, man, in America. Stop worrying about people's feelings and emotions. You hurt my feelings. You hurt my emotions, James. I can't believe you talked to me like that. I'm going to tell my husband. Tell your husband. I can't believe you said something like that to me. You're not a Christian. No, I am. And I told you that because I love you enough to tell you the truth. And you shall know the truth, and the truth shall make you free. You heard me? All right, guys. I'll see y'all on the next video. Like, share, and subscribe. And don't look like that thing right there.